Hi to all the librarians at ALA Annual Virtual.
Hello.
My name is David Atherton and I am the winner of the Great British Baking Show 2019.
And I'm Rachel Stubbs, illustrator and David's friend, and we collaborated on a children's cookbook together called Bake, Make and Learn to Cook, written by David and illustrated by me.
And we're joining you today from my kitchen in London.
And it's raining and freezing cold outside.
Typical British weather. And today we're going to be making Cakey Caterpillar from our book. So come and join us and let's get going.
Enjoy.
Okay, first things first, we're going to preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And the other little bit of prep at the start is just to take a muffin tray and to fill it with colourful paper cases.
Great, thank you.
Now, for this recipe, I've done this a lot of times now, so I'm going to get Rachel to do it.
I'm pretending to be the child today.
It's actually a very easy recipe, so it shouldn't take too long as well. Right, we want all different colours.
Okay.
The yellow one.
Ooh. Lovely. There we go.
Nice, I'll put this to the side. And the first thing we're going to do now is blend. So we're not going to do any fancy whisking or anything like that. So get the blender, Rachel.
Right.
And for the blender, we're going to put in 1 medium egg, half a cup, it's a quarter of a cup, quarter of a cup of vegetable oil, a quarter of a cup of granulated sugar, half a ripe banana, 1 2/3 of a cup of spinach leaves, and half a teaspoon of vanilla. And that's literally going to get blended up.
Okay, I love how you've laid it all out for me here, beautifully.
Yeah, this is
Where should
very
I start?
TV
Do I need to go with anything
No,
first?
just anyway, in which way it goes.
Right, let's do the egg.
So while you're doing that, let's have a first question.
Cool. So question number 1 is, how did you guys end up working together?
Good question. Well, I've actually known David for quite a few years now, since we were at university. He knew my husband and we kept in touch ever since, and he ended up being our lodger when he moved to London, didn't he?
Yeah, it was so nice. London's such a big city and it's quite nice if you know people. So Rachel and her husband very kindly took me in for 2 years. I didn't think it was going to be that long. And while I was staying with you, you were studying, weren't you, Rachel? What were you studying?
I was working very hard on the Children's Book Illustration MA in Cambridge, and David was very helpful with my work.
Yeah, I was very encouraging because the pictures were so good. And when I was in London, I decided, maybe quite stupidly, to apply for a TV show. So I was on the Great British Baking Show. And while I was on there, I just sent a random message to Rachel, quite organically, just saying, why don't we do a cookbook together?
Yes, and I was like, that sounds like a great idea, and it all kind of spiraled from there, really. I'd already worked with Walker Books as my publisher, and so we just mentioned it to them, and they were really excited.
Yeah, so it was quite organic and quite natural. It wasn't very, like, I don't know, it just felt so right, especially because we talked about doing a book together as well when we were very young.
Yeah.
So, don't want to miss this one. We are just going to whiz this up now and we'll go on to the next step.
Yes.
Next step, we have a small zucchini. Actually, we've only got a large one, so we've done it in half. But we just need to finely grate this now, Rachel. Mm-hmm. It's important to finely grate it instead of coarsely grating it, because we want it to go really nicely into the cake batter. So while we're doing that, have you got another question for us?
Yeah, question number 2. What was your initial vision for the book and how did this change?
Well, initially we were thinking of doing much more of a storybook that kind of had maybe 1 or 2 recipes in there. And our ideas were pretty vague, to be honest, but so we explained them to the publisher, and they were much more keen on doing something that was going to be much more practically useful for kids in the kitchen, that they could just get really involved with, really learn about food and get really messy with. And we loved that idea, actually. We're like, yes, that's exactly what we'd want to do.
Yeah, I guess one thing we didn't know is that the publisher who commissioned us, who'd actually commissioned Rachel for her first kids book, she'd already been having this idea because she had an old book from the 1950s that she'd had as a kid that had all of these wonderful recipes, step by step. So we didn't know that she already had that in her head, and that really matched really nicely with what we wanted to do with the book in the end. Because I guess those kind of style of books work really well with illustration, because you kind of illustrate all the step by steps.
Yes, and it was great because it meant there was lots of going to be lots of white space around the recipes, so there's plenty of space to kind of illustrate and have different families in there, and for little kind of wordless stories to be involved.
And it was big. We actually went with the same size book that she'd had for her book. Right, so let's put the zucchini and the blender mix stuff into the mixing bowl.
Okay.
This is the kind of messy bit, the fun bit.
Nice.
Sometimes we'll have to get it all out, but that's fine. And I can see this is very green.
Yes,
this is a bit of a theme
green
to the recipes in the book. It's one of the really important things that I wanted for the book was to have more healthy food. Especially for kids, we need to teach people when they're young. The Great British Baking Show is great, but it's got a lot of very ultra sweet bakes and lots of fancy frostings. And kids love to have snacks, love to have little cakes and treats in the house all the time. So why not make it a little bit healthier? And I think now there's so many good recipes using zucchini, spinach, bananas, sweet potato, all kinds of beetroot, all kinds of vegetables and things in cakes.
Yeah.
And green is fun. So I'll just move these out of the way for you, Rachel.
Okay.
Because to this, we are now going to add 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour and 1 teaspoon of baking powder to give it the lift.
Yes, nice. Okay. So I am the child again, putting in the flour. This would probably be going all around the table actually if I was actually a child.
But you can see this is a very easy recipe because it doesn't require to have your stand-aid whizzing around or a whisk or anything like that. It is quite simple. I'll get you your spatula back.
How much of this is it again?
1 teaspoon.
1 teaspoon, okay. Great.
We've been converting to the American weights because we've had this book out in the UK for a few months. And so we're not used to cup measurements and things like that. But
No.
we have tried, and say the word zucchini, we say courgette.
It's all very different for us.
Okay,
so bear
let's
with.
mix that.
Okay.
Yep, just mix that up.
Okay, brilliant. This is the fun bit. You see it all come together.
Have you got another question for us?
How did you make the artwork, Rachel?
Oh, good question. Well, I really love working by hand, so I try and draw everything just by hand as much as I can, and then I kind of did all the ink layers separately to keep the fluidity of the line, and then I compiled it all digitally in Photoshop. But yeah, it was really fun to do, and we kind of wanted it to have a community feel, and like it could be different families that potentially lived on the same street or something. So,
And I love it because you can tell, I think you can tell that it was originally kind of line pencil drawings. I love the kind of, it's got a lot of movement in your drawings, and it's really good because not just for the food, but then really good for the family and the kids
Yeah.
and stuff.
and I wanted to not keep it too pristine, but to have a bit of messiness in there, because let's be honest, cooking with kids is not the cleanest operation.
Right, we're just going to put this in here, Rachel. There's
Lovely.
no more than 2/3, I think.
Okay.
Actually, I thought for me it was actually very important, as well as knowing Rachel and loving illustrated picture books myself. I was very keen on not having a picture book, a cookbook, sorry, that was full of photographs, because with these photographs you have these food stylists who are experts, and they take these beautiful pictures of bakes that are almost impossible for kids to try and recreate.
Yeah.
And what pressure for parents or whoever's baking with their kids to look at these pictures and think, okay, it's got to look like that, knowing that the kids might be disappointed if it doesn't look exactly like it.
Yeah.
So this is great because with Rachel's pictures, they basically just come out exactly like they are, like they all look like Rachel's pictures.
And
I
if
think
they
this is only
don't,
gonna
it's not a
do-
big deal.
Let's just do
It's
10.
not a perfect photo.
Let's not do those ones.
Oh, sorry.
Because I think there's not quite enough mix to do all of them. The other thing I was going to say is that in the book, it's not just baking. So I am known for being on the Great British Baking Show, but this book has lots of meal recipes as well and breakfast things. And one of the things that's been really nice is that we've had lots of people send in pictures on Instagram, and we've had kids who have done whole meals for their parents.
Yes.
And
3-course meals for their
3
parents,
course.
no less.
Yes. And the great thing is that the book is for like a lot of things you'll have to be helped with as kids, but as the kids get older and as they've done the recipes quite a few times, we've had quite a few people saying that the kids did the recipes completely on their own and just surprised their mum and dads with one of the simple bakes or one of the meals.
Yeah.
Nice. Right, this, once we finish filling, these are going to go into the oven for 15 minutes until they're just nice and golden and puffed up.
Yeah, I reckon that's good.
These smell ready. So, also the time has been up.
Oh wow, looking good. They're so green.
Yes. So while we let these cool, we're going to get on with the frosting. It's a very simple water frosting. So it's just half a cup of powdered sugar, and then we're just adding water. In the recipe, I put 2 teaspoons of water, but you just kind of put as much as you want till you get the right consistency. So it's a bit of a game to see if it's right.
Let's have a go.
And then we're frosting them very simply, but we are going to top them with some sweeties. I know these aren't the most healthy, and you could do another healthy thing if you want to, but I'm thinking this recipe is kind of like for a kid's party or something, so it's nice to have some sweets.
Yes, it's got to be fun. So not everything in this book is healthy.
Yeah.
But, you know, that would be.
And also I said, sweetie, these are candy, American candy. And I picked the ones that Rachel and I like. I think if you're going to be doing this for kids, it's probably good to pick the candy that the kids like.
Yes.
Right.
Shall I just do one at a time?
Yes.
This time?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And we have another question.
Who tested the recipes?
Well, children, real life children. We did some at my home with my son, and he's very little actually. Well, he was little at the time, he was 2. And then also people at our publishers, they've all got, a lot of them have families, so they tested them a lot with their children as well.
They could put their names forward and the publisher paid for the ingredients, but they had to test it exactly like the book. And it was quite funny because I got a lot of the feedback, and some of the adults who were doing the testing with their kids were not bakers. So it was quite good. Instead of having these food stylists that know exactly what to do, it was actually quite good having people that didn't really know.
Yes, and then they were able to give us feedback about the step-by-steps and if everything was working well.
I'm going to put in a tiny little bit more.
A tiny. Not too much, David.
Not too much, just so it just is a little bit slacker.
There we
That's
go.
perfect. You want it to be able to like smooth it onto the cakes.
And have a little bit of gloss, like when it's the right.
Yeah.
It seems to go a little bit glossy, doesn't it?
So we're going to do this when these are cooled. We're just going to spread the icing round and then top with the sweeties to look like a caterpillar and put it on a tray. But I think we have one more question, do we?
Yeah, what's next?
Oh.
What's next for you, Rachel?
What's next for me? I'm working on another children's book at the moment, of my own.
And you have one before as well.
Yes, I did. I've written an illustrated one before called My Red Hat, which I did previous to this cookbook.
And I am doing healthy food still. So I've got a book called Good to Eat, which is an adult cookbook. And that's coming out. And then also more in this series. So some more kids' healthy cookbooks.
Yeah, very exciting.
And here's the Cakey Caterpillar. So nice.
It's got a little face here. Little smile.
We have a professional taster here today, Rowan.
This is Rowan.
So, which one is your favourite? Which one do you want? That
orange
one.
one.
It's the biggest one.
It is the biggest.
You can tuck in. And for this one, we actually put some, we call them cocktail sticks, with sweets on the top to make it like a furry caterpillar. But you have to be careful with kids of that. You don't have to put that if you don't want to. I'm going to try this one.
Ooh, I don't know. I'm going to go for the yellow. That looks pretty generously decorated. And the great thing about these cakes, Rowan, is they are green like a real caterpillar.
Yes.
So shall I help you undo yours?
Which one are you gonna have, Dad?
I think he'll have
Which
the
one are you
pink
gonna have,
one.
Daddy?
He's going to have the pink one. Right, should we try it? Should
Try
we all
it.
go
I've
for
already tried it.
We've already tried it. Oh, tasty.
Do you like it, Rowan? Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. I hope you have fun doing your Cakey Caterpillar and all the other recipes in the book as well.
Yes, it's been such a joy to be here. Thank you for having us.